Hey there, listeners. Welcome to another episode. This one's going to be great. We are going back to New York City and visiting with our friends Charles, Oliver, and Mabel. That's right. And this time we're going to Broadway. It's going to be exciting. We are actually going to talk all about Only Murders in the Building Season 3. Can't believe it's the third season already. It's so interesting to talk about. And it's going to be a great crew to talk all about it tonight. Welcome back to the show, Felicity.
Hello. Great to be back.
And of course, Sarah Rose. Is this your first time on Earth Station One?
It is my first time on Earth Station One. Yes, it is.
Welcome. You want to tell everyone a little bit about you?
I'm Sarah Rose, as Mike already introduced me. I'm just a normal geek, lover of all things, especially theater, which I'm sure we'll get into. That's what lumped me into watching Only Murders in the Building. Put something in the theater and I'm down to watch it. But also big fan of mysteries and stuff growing up. So yeah.
It's going to be great. It is going to be great to have you here. And of course, Mr. Mike Gordon is here. How are you, my friend?
Howdy.
And as we like to say, if you haven't watched Only Murders in the Building Season 3 yet, or haven't watched the finale at least, go watch it. It is awesome, folks. You are going to be missing out on something if you don't. So please, 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 please check it out. We are going to spoil the hell out of this one, as we like to say. You've been warned. You can put warnings up on for our YouTube people in the video. So you've been warned a lot of times. So, definitely. Mr. Mike, ready to take it away, sir?
Oh, yeah. I definitely need to get started before you try to attempt a patter song.
I thought about it, but I went to the White Room. So,
yeah. If you want to stay there, that will be good. Sarah, since it's your first time joining us, what is your thoughts about the series as a whole?
The series as a whole, I think kind of filled that niche that has been missing from recent TV. In my opinion, growing up, I was a huge fan of murder mystery shows. So whether you go back to Murder, She Wrote, or Diagnosis Murder, or the one where there was a crime-solving priest, I don't remember what it's called, but those were all like mainstay parts of TV when I was growing up. And like all of a sudden, like murder mystery, like it kind of just turned into crime TV.
Mm-hmm.
And it lost like the comedy aspect of it. And so I think that this show in general just fits that niche. And obviously, I love the cast. Every season they do an amazing job casting, especially this last season. Mm-hmm. So,
yeah. Felicity, what about you? What are your thoughts overall? What drew you to start watching this series?
It was absolutely the combination of Steve Martin and Martin Short. Having been fans of them individually and together, Kevin and I have seen them on their touring show. They have such a amazing relationship, and I love I especially love the antagonism that they bring into the characters. How just they never miss a chance to insult each other, but it's done with love. You can tell from the actors themselves, and I just they're a great double act. And I was really pleasantly surprised by Selena Gomez, because I wasn't aware of her really as a child actor. That was I was too old to watch whatever she was on when she was a kid, and
one of those Disney really kids, right?
Yeah. But really impressed by her. She has screen presence. She has a really interesting voice. She really kind of fits nicely into that trio.
Yeah, I think so as well. Mike, we've talked about this series. I think we did a review of was it the first or second season for our patrons, right?
We did season 1 for Patreon originally, and then we ran it during the COVID era, and Basically when we didn't want to do an episode or something, so we ran it as an extra episode. And then we did review the second episode, I think, with Mary Ogle. I think she was on that one.
The second season, yeah.
Yes. And
yeah. And we both, I mean, I know that there's been some mention about, the quality or whatever, but I think we both agree that it's still pretty high for, going into the third season, right?
Oh, completely. I think it's interesting because each season they reinvent the show in a lot of ways, and it's not the same show. And adding the theater aspect to it this season was a lot of fun and a lot of originality to it. And it was nice to get them out of the building, truthfully.
Yeah.
Which was, the first two seasons, they were in the building. They wandered out trying to figure out, the different parts of the mysteries. And they actually, they changed it up. And I liked how they broke up the crew a little bit this season too, which was nice. It gave each one, especially Selena Gomez, some real moments to shine this season, which is pretty cool.
So if you want to know who done it, we're gonna let you know.
I think it was one of the triplets, truthfully.
Which of the triplets did it?
See, we're starting to patter now. We're starting to patter. No pattering. No pattering. Well, so that leads me into, so we're going into season 3 now. I believe prior to season 3 starting, I don't know if it was a huge, or maybe it was just something I had overheard. I don't even know the exact quote or whatever, but there was a cloud overhead of this season right from the beginning that Steve Martin said this is going to be the last thing he ever does. He's going to retire. This is it, right? So going in knowing that this might look like it was going to be the last season of Only Murders in the Building, not to mention just the last thing that Steve Martin might ever do. Felicity, we'll start with you. What were your thoughts going into this season, and overall, were you satisfied?
I hadn't heard any rumors, actually. I tend to just not look for information on things that I plan on watching. I kind of picked that up from Kevin, actually, because he's very, very spoiler phobic, and so I don't go out of my way to avoid things, but I don't go out of my way to find things either. So kind of, if it doesn't come across my feed, I don't see it. So I wasn't, I thought maybe this will be the last one, just because you never know going in how long they can keep it going. But I didn't have any expectations of this being the final season. I was certainly intrigued by the setup from season 2,
right?
Knowing that Paul Rudd is, a national treasure and
sexiest man alive. Well, I think that was a couple years ago.
Knowing that he was, not only the murder victim, but someone who was set up to be pretty unlikable. That was intriguing to me. And I'd heard Meryl Streep was going to be in it too, so I was excited to see what she would do, and I was not disappointed. I thought she was fantastic. And overall, I think I enjoyed the season a little more than the last one, but there were a couple of aspects that I didn't care for and thought it was dragging a bit in the early episodes, and it really kind of kicked back into gear in episode 6 for me.
Sarah, what about you?
So, spoiler alert, I didn't start watching until season 3, so I had no idea that that he said that this was going to be the last thing that he did. So if this is going to be the last thing he does, by all means, a great way to go out, because it shows his comedic talents as well as his acting chops, in my opinion, and lets him have a bunch of fun with his friend. So, by all means. As far as going from season 2 to season 3, when I watched season 2, I don't know. Season 2 wasn't my favorite season. I'm going to be honest. Out of the 3 of them, it was the one where I picked out who the murderer was pretty early on, figured it out. So season 3, I thought it it allowed us to explore things beyond, especially as you said, Selena Gomez, her character Mabel. We got to see more of Mabel beyond just like her childhood growing up, because obviously we had seen that with her dad dying and the puzzles and stuff like that in season 2, but we actually got to see her as modern day Mabel kind of do her own thing, and I really enjoyed that. And like the whole and I'm terrible with names, so I apologize. Charles kind of he got beyond the Brazos thing. Like, they just they allowed him to like fully develop more, I felt like. So I mean, I really enjoyed this season. I thought that they did a really good job. And if this is the last thing Steve Martin ever does, I'm okay with that.
Yeah. Well, looking back on it now, like I said, I don't know how true any of that was. And looking back on it now, I believe if there was such a statement made or anything like that, I believe it was just a setup to make us believe that his character was killed at the end of the season. Because there is that sort of moment at the end where you're like, oh my God, did they just kill Charles? Just for a split second.
Until you really see the body on the ground.
Yeah.
And you realize, somebody just shot Jane Lynch.
Yeah. All the signs are there. I mean, when Jane Lynch shows up, it's like, oh yeah, that's obviously. And then when the person at the end doesn't turn on the light immediately when they get in the room, it's like, oh yeah, they're trying to hide who it is. So yeah, but a lot of times when you're watching, sometimes stuff like that, especially when the show's done really well, it's really good at doing what a good magician does, which, the clues are there as to how to solve the magic, but you don't see them because you're distracted by this hand, right? Yeah. So
I found that my pattern with this show and this season in particular is that I figure it out a couple of minutes before they reveal it, before the characters do, basically. So, I saw in the final episode, when they showed the lipstick on the handkerchief, I'm like, oh, it wasn't it was her son.
It was the kid.
Because he had it, because we saw how she kisses the handkerchief in his pocket. And she looked surprised. I mean, she looked just as horrified as the rest of them were. Because she didn't know at that point that he was the one who ultimately killed him.
Right.
And in the previous episode, I figured out that she was the poisoner just before they revealed that as well.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, I don't know if it's just that that's when kind of the critical mass of little clues add up, or whether it was a little too predictable. But like I said, I didn't figure things out way in advance.
I'm going to be honest. This is the only one that I didn't figure out right away. Like, I kind of figured the son was the killer. Okay. Like, I kind of figured that out, but her being the poisoner, I did not figure that out until they started setting it up in the episode. And as somebody who ADHD patterning, I recognize patterns. That was surprising for me that I didn't figure out she was the one who poisoned him.
I learned very early in season 1 that even though I do, kind of like guessing, along with everybody else, the show is so enjoyable that I just kind of I don't want to say I don't care, because I do care, but it's like I don't want to kill myself and trying to figure it out, because I just want to see where it goes. I'm just basically I just put me in the car and then I'll ride on the track, like a good attraction. Mike, what about you? Because I know, because we had talked about, I think, this being the last season, right? Like, so you had heard that too, right?
I had heard rumors that this was supposed to be the last season, and so when they did I thought, okay, it was a really good close-up. It was a good finale, and this was a good, they took their bows literally, and that would be a perfect ending to the show. And then when they went to because I had not heard that even season 4 was in the running at all. Mm-hmm. And so when they, killed off Jane Lynch's character at the end, it was like, oh crap, we're getting another season, which is awesome. Which is awesome.
They weren't going to leave that hanging. And it's pretty clear that since they announced it so quickly after that
Mhm.
that it was going to be renewed that they knew all along. They just
Oh, of
didn't
course.
release the information. Yeah.
Exactly. And you hit it right there on the head with that, because it literally was, so bam, they let it sink in that there was going to
Yeah.
be, and then literally within 24 hours, there's going to be a season 4. And it's
Yeah,
like,
exactly.
exactly.
Again, I didn't see that news till after I watched the finale
Oh,
about
I
an
didn't
hour
either.
ago.
And well, I saw it the day of, but it didn't ruin it for me or anything. So,
Mhm.
and this season was just brilliant. This was so many false starts and so many leads and so many characters on who could have done it. And so many people had motivation in this one to do it, even more than the first 2 seasons. And, and even some of the minor characters I was fully suspecting. It's like almost like I had my little scorecard, like, okay, what about this person? What about this person? And it's
Did you have an actual board, a bulletin board at your house, like in your house, and you're putting
well,
up pictures?
let me turn my camera to show. No,
or no, in your case, they're like you use pop figures.
I use pop figures of each character.
I suspected Taubert for a bit, and then thought that they won't do like one of the love interests is the killer again.
Right.
He also didn't seem to. He seemed to have the least motive to.
No, very much so. But they
No.
introduced a very interesting possible love triangle there too.
So that's the one thing I didn't really vibe on the plot with Joy.
The Joy.
Yes.
Yeah.
I mean, she was there. They Charles asked her out at the end of the second season, and she's there at the play, but so is Charles's sort of stepdaughter, and we don't see her this season, which was kind of disappointing to me after they established their relationship in the second season.
Yep.
But then Joy, I mean, I didn't really need to see Charles have another kind of doomed romance, but I really liked that that Oliver got one. I really liked the relationship between him and Meryl Streep's character.
Well, and I was kind of wondering on the whole like ill-fated Joy thing, if it was because maybe they didn't realize at the end of season 2 that they were going to get Meryl Streep. Okay, so they kind of immediately they're like, well, we're not going to have these 2 men having romance in their life for both sides. So obviously we're going to play with Meryl Streep more than we are with this other actress who did an amazing job. But I felt she could have easily been one of those characters that was cut. I would have rather seen his daughter than see her.
And I would have been fine with them having a relationship, but just not moving and not taking the step of moving in together and not
getting the engagement.
Still not sure what was up with. I'm not sure what was up with the White Room. That didn't pay off ultimately. I thought maybe it would be like his mind palace, and that would figure into solving the murder somehow. But they just kind of dropped it after he accidentally proposes to Joy.
I like the idea of it, and it was something that he had to get over. And that was. I'll be honest with you, that was probably his execution of the Patter song was probably the only thing I really liked about Charles's arc this year, this season. I love Steve Martin. Steve Martin is what brought me to this series, not only him starring in it, but also the fact that he co-wrote it or co-created it. And, because I know that he's written some murder mystery novels. And he's a very, very, I don't need to say how talented he is, because we all know. However, there have been times in Steve Martin's career that I have not been extremely ecstatic with what he does. And there's a series of movies that I think he did in the 90s and so forth that I was just like, ooh, man, these are just not great. But
no, you're not talking about Dirty Rotten Scoundrels, are you?
Oh no,
I'm not talking about that.
And I do.
No, I'm talking about the Pink Panther. I'm talking about House Sitter. I'm talking about he goes through a rush of these movies that are just not great. House Sitter, is that the right one? Is the one with Queen Latifah, I think. Anyway, but But and I've said it many times before, and I'm not gonna beat a dead horse with it, but I'm not a huge Martin Short fan. And so I just I can tolerate him in things, but he's not somebody that I'm like, ooh, Martin Short's in it, that's a must for me. In fact, it's usually the opposite. Now it just so happens that I think this season, right at the start or whatever, there came an article in the Slate online that said, it was called "Why We Keep Putting Up with Martin Short," and it invited some pretty brutal criticism about him that I did not think was warranted. And I thought, well, gee, how ironic is that? Because this season of Only Murders in the Building is Martin Short season. It's Oliver's season. Like he is so good in this. He gets so much to do and he nails it, whether it's, the drama of directing, the love angle, the heart attacks. Like he's got so much things going on in this one that I just think, man, he got everything to do. Whereas I think Steve Martin with Charles didn't get really a lot to do except for the tired thing that we've seen before with he's in a bad relationship. And quite frankly, the episode where he's trapped in the closet for like most of the episode, I just didn't think worked out well for me at all. And usually Steve Martin nails that sort of thing. And so I didn't appreciate that. I did think that this was another great season building on Mabel's story and her sort of trying to figure out what she's going to do with her life, kind of thing. And the three of them still have amazing chemistry. Mike, as you pointed out, I think it was great to kind of really divide them for a while, more so than we've ever seen before. And really put some nails into that relationship. I thought was really interesting to watch, and the way they came together, all three of them, was really rewarding. And I did wonder, it did seem like they were leading to some sort of series finale, because they were all going away. They all looked like they were going to California or they were going somewhere at the end of this season. So now I know that that was just a way for them to not have to pay, Meryl Streep for another season.
No, they have actually said that if she wants to come back, they will absolutely bring her back.
Sure. So, if she wants to.
And she apparently said during Wrap that I can't wait for season 4. So, again, it's possible she might come back. It might be one of these like Jane Lynch, like I show up for an episode and then I'm gone type of things. But I do want to say one thing about the White Room. That is an actual thing in the theater. It is a real theater thing. Now, obviously, they played up on the comedy of it, but that's one of the things I loved about this story, because obviously, as you said, it's an Oliver perspective, Mike. I mean, it's his story. They've been teasing his background in the theater and everything else, and so this is his time to shine. And I loved like the little nuggets as a theater person of all the things you kind of see that they've kind of just pieced in for those people who are kind of like theater junkies. Like I personally, I really
like the theater ghost.
Yes, exactly.
And you have to appease the ghost before you could like go on with a show, and all this stuff and all these other traditions that are there behind the scenes. And I think also it really culminates. For other people, yes, sure, but for theater people, the Matthew Broderick episode is just an appearance, is just a hoot and a delight. Like, it's just so good.
Oh, we even got Mel Brooks in it. That episode.
Yeah, I love that. The topper on it was the video call with Mel Brooks.
Exactly.
Don't get him started. Don't let him have any input.
Don't let him. Don't do it. No. And I totally agree
Arthur,
with that. But like,
Oliver, you were in so much trouble.
And I love him. I love Matthew Broderick being in the audience at the end, and
Yes.
I'm so glad I
Getting
didn't do
along
the
with-
show.
What's her name? Yeah.
But like that's something that's real, like where a theater person, they can do something completely right and then we overanalyze it. And like that was just like that whole thing. And I thought Matthew Broderick, number one, playing himself, I thought was really, really brave in that regard. Like he's played himself before, but like just like being the difficult person who constantly wants to do something better or different and stretch themselves. And like we saw that with Meryl Streep's character too. Like I want to do things differently and like dive into my character. Like that's just like very theater.
Very method.
Because you always want to do something different than the person before you. So
I just love how Oliver's attitude in that episode goes from elation to just like pure frustration. And ultimately, I love the way he
excited to see
apologizes to Charles by totally making some shit up about some other situation. It's like, okay, we know he's talking about Charles, even if he's not going to say.
Yeah, exactly.
It was funny as hell, the reaction. Matthew Broderick, oh my God, I'm so excited to have you here. And he didn't leave.
Get out, go home.
You're fired.
And then like him still not realizing it as he closed the door in his face, like, oh, I'll see you at 6 a.m. in the morning. Bye.
Was there a actor playing themselves in the second season? I don't remember.
Yeah, well,
it was Amy Schumer in it.
Amy Schumer. Yeah, because
briefly.
that's been sort of the running gag, which is
like Sting.
Like Sting is in the upstairs apartment. Amy Schumer is in that apartment in the second season, and of course, Paul Rudd's character is in it in the third season.
Mm-hmm.
So yeah, big mystery coming up as to who's going to be in it in the fourth season. But yeah, that's always kind of interesting and fun. The Mike, what's something else about the series that you enjoyed?
It was interesting because you got, to see this season, like you keep on everyone saying, you got to see each character out on their own. And I think, truthfully, Charles was the one who didn't shine in that part. And I think Oliver, Martin Short's character, was just amazing this season. He was awesome. And because he was always in the first two seasons very phonetic, very, all over the place and everything. You got to meet his son, but you never really took him seriously in that. And this season, you took him seriously because he was in his element in the theater, and which was wonderful. And you got to see that he actually is a decent producer, and he was able to take a really bad production where the star died on the very first and was able to create a musical out of that from scratch. It wasn't like there was pre-existing music for this, which was awesome. And actually some of the tunes were actually kind of good in some ways.
Well, they even released them like as a whole, because we never in the show we never saw a full song from start to finish without a cut,
right?
And they actually released the whole songs on YouTube, which
you can see them, really, and they have a couple of them at least as extras on Hulu as well.
One of the things that I really, really, really enjoyed was because it was such from a character perspective. It was such a big moment for Charles to get through the Patter song, which of the Pickwick triplets did it. And he, that's what causes them to go to the White Room and et cetera, et cetera. And then, and then he has the big moment where he does get through it in order to buy time for the other characters. But yet while we're watching it, it cuts away from him, like we see part of him and then we see someone else like watching him or doing something else and et cetera, et cetera. But I love the fact that they released a cut of that scene, a version of that scene where it's just a straight shot, and you can see that Steve Martin can actually just nail this song.
Well, exactly.
And that's pretty awesome.
It was awesome. And like everyone's been saying, Mabel was amazing this season. She was great. And you even got a little bit of, her possibly being tempted to go possibly work for the competition.
Yeah.
But
Tina
it was
Fey.
Tina
Yeah.
Fey,
Yeah.
I can never remember the actual character's name, but yeah.
I don't know if yeah, that was weird
Linda
because
Channing.
yeah, yeah, Cinda Channing shows up, and Tina Fey shows up in the like one episode, and I didn't know if they were like, obviously that was a cloud that was hanging over because she had that Mabel had that option, but yet she never really goes to it, and we don't see her again. We don't see Tina Fey again, and I did wonder if she was like, oh, I got to go to Venice and solve a mystery with Poirot there, so I'm going to be gone for the rest of the season. But yeah, I mean, I always enjoy seeing
You can listen
her
to that
characters.
episode, folks, or watch the video to find out our true feelings about Tina Fey in that movie.
They are divisive.
Yes.
Oh. Uh-oh. Well,
Might have to go back and
I'm already looking at you sideways about Martin Short. I think that, I wouldn't say that I love Martin Short's performances in movies, but just as a showbiz character, like he always had really hilarious appearances on talk shows, especially Conan. And it's just always a pleasure to see him. But yeah, I wouldn't say I'm a fan of him as an actor, but as a person, I definitely am.
Oh yeah, I could totally understand. I completely agree with where you're coming from. And especially the chemistry he has with both, Steve Martin and, it's known they travel and they tour together.
Yeah. And that chemistry is solid. I mean, what's amazing to me through the 3 seasons, but even right from the beginning, is that, Selena Gomez, who's quite frankly like half their age at least, right? Like, just fits in with the two of them so well. I think Selena Gomez has I don't know, maybe, I mean, I don't want to speak for her as a person, but Mabel anyway seems to have an old soul, right? Like, so she fits in definitely with them. And I really like the fact that, despite the fact that she's a Disney kid, the fact that she's a pop singer, whatever, she comes in and she's not your stereotypical kind of like girl that you would see in one of the, like a mystery or whatever. Her voice is, and her looks or whatever, she's just different, but she fits and she owns it, and I think it's a great performance. I think the 3 of them are awesome, and yes, I would like to see Meryl Streep come back in the 4th season or whenever. And I do like seeing people pop in and out, but I love the core 3, and I don't want to see it become like 4.
No.
And the wonderful thing about Selena Gomez in general, she was after my Disney time, okay, by just my age in general. I was a Disney kid, okay, like Xenon, if you want to age me. I'm the Xenon generation. So she was after my time. But that being said, like, as somebody who was really into music, when she was like super hardcore Disney, and she when she started getting into music, she wanted to start a band, but she did not want to be the only band member. That was like a big thing with her. And eventually she did go solo, Selena Gomez, and she's been music pretty much continuously since she went solo. And people almost sort of forgot about her acting. So I thought that this was a really great way for her to diversify herself. I mean, beyond like her music and the boyfriend drama and all of that, she showed that this is me, this is my heart, like I'm passionate about this and I'm really good at this. And I thought that she did an amazing job because of that. So
I wanted to touch on something that I really liked the season or found very touching was Meryl Streep's story of giving up her child and the relationship that she has to Dickie. Even, but when you figure it, when you find out, it's like, oh, no wonder they're so close, and you wonder why you didn't see it before. And I just thought that was very touching, and the fact that he knows before she tells him.
Yes, the scene where like she goes to reveal it and to him finally, but he already knows, and it is really really a wonderful
Yeah.
season. And
realizing that that her apparent stalker book of Paul Rudd is actually about Dickie.
Yeah,
That was a nice little switch, actually. I like that.
And it doesn't hurt that you've got, like, Meryl Streep doing the legwork on that emotion, on the emotion on that. It's almost like one of those things where you almost like take her for granted. Like, she's so good, she's so talented, she's the best, but yet you kind of, forget when you actually like start watching her. You're like, oh yes, she is the best. Like, she is so good. The fact that she's playing this actress who's good but undiscovered is just kind of an interesting, flip for her. Like, it's kind of an interesting thing for her to play. But the fact that, like, whenever she does, whether she's playing her character or whether she's, her character is playing this what is she, a nanny, right? It's just amazing to watch. I mean, she just is so captivating in this.
And they did a really good job with her character's writing, and she did a really good job playing her, because the biggest concern I had going into third season, knowing Meryl was going to be in it, is she going to outshine everybody? Okay. Like, and is she just going to steal like all the limelight? And they did a really good job of including her, because obviously they want to. She's a huge selling point for this season. But she really did a great job when she was in scenes and stuff like that, not stealing the spotlight, sharing the spotlight. And obviously we heard her sing, which, if anybody has heard Meryl sing, I mean, whether you've watched Mamma Mia or this or whatever, she's an amazing singer, amazing actress. But she did a really good job of being like a character on a show and not being the star, which I thought is only like more in her corner. And
I agree. And I think her arc, I mean, we kind of fell in love with her as Oliver fell in love with her, even though at the beginning she seems a little difficult, unlikable, and then she seems a little sus, and then but we realize that there's a good person there, and when we learn her whole story, we really are sympathetic to her at that point.
Yeah, very much so. And it's interesting, I like how they made her into the actress who was always, like, in high school she was the number one actress. She was like, oh, you're gonna go places, you're gonna be the one. And then she was the one who almost always made it, always made the main part. And she had such a love for the theater that probably over 40 years she tried and tried and tried. And this was her big break after 40 years and everything. And that
which is why you really, I mean, she was my first suspect. I think that they set it up that way pretty deliberately.
To show that I think everybody was kind of expecting her to
once it's announced. Once it's announced, it's like usually, it's the big star, right, of the season, right? Like, it's either gonna, Paul Rudd's the victim, Meryl Streep's going to be the killer.
But they give I think it's when Paul Rudd comes back from the poisoning. They pretty quickly established that everybody in the show pretty much had a motive to kill him.
I got to give them credit too for that, because that was clever. I mean, that was a like, when he came back to the party and he was alive and everybody's like, oh my God. And then he ends up being, found dead in the elevator shaft or the elevator. I was like, okay, yes, of course they have to, like, yes, this is about this is about the Arconia. Like, people die in the Arconia. Like, that's what this show is about. This is not going to deviate from that.
What is it with you three?
Yeah, poor Uma. She's just had it.
Yeah,
and she got to sit next to Matthew Broderick.
You got to be effing kidding me.
I know.
The klepto part of Uma too. Like, I love that little that little part of her story.
Her closet with all that crap she's taken, and it's just like, oh my God.
That stuff looked familiar.
We even got to see Bunny this season.
Yeah,
for like 2 seconds.
It was
also one thing they built up early on, but kind of dropped, was Mabel's love of the show, the girl cop show that Paul Rudd was in, and like the seeing Paul Rudd after Ben was dead, seeing Ben after he was dead. That's another thing that I felt like, kind of like the White Room didn't really ultimately go anywhere. And
well, I think that's the thing with these murder shows. I mean, you're going to go in, like, you're going to go on off of exits that actually don't go anywhere. Like and then you have to double back and then figure out, like, and that's, I think the fact that they do it in an entertaining way is what I find compelling. But I mean, it's the typical Agatha Christie thing. It's like you go one way because you're thinking that that's why, when the detective at the end of the thing, has everybody in the room and he talks about like what reason everybody in the room has for killing somebody, which the show does episode by episode, with having them actually narrated by each of the characters, which I also like a lot, that device. You explore all these characters, so you don't, you can narrow it down by the end, because who hasn't gotten the narration yet? Like, who hasn't gotten to narrate and tell their story yet? Like one by one, where the show is telling you who didn't do it, because we're getting that there. I have to say, I know, before we do run out of time, when we're not quite there yet, but before we do, I do want to mention Michael Creighton as Howard gets a much bigger part this season.
Yes,
and he is great. Like, he is.
I love how,
like, I like him as being like, I like him. Like, I don't want there to be four, but he's great as sort of this like underling among them. Like, I want to keep him around in season 4 in that kind of role.
I know, and I love how they dangle him being on the podcast over his head. You want to be part of the podcast? Here you go.
I love the
heck, they dangled him being on stage.
I know,
that's what I was going to say. Like, you need somebody who knows the mannerisms and the lines and all of this. And are you suggesting what I think you're suggesting? And then it's cut.
For a second,
not him after all.
Of course, Oliver would not let that happen.
No, he wouldn't even occur to him at all. As we said, like, it's all about Oliver. And this season, I think, was all about Oliver. Like, to me, like, this is his season, and he nailed it. I thought he was so good, and he carried it. So it'll be really interesting to see, because we do know that we're getting a 4th season, thank goodness, and we do know who the first victim is. And yes, that they did die in the Arconia.
And it seemed like, Jane Lynch's character said she had something to tell.
Yep.
Charles. Is that, and someone was obviously trying to kill Charles, not her.
Maybe.
So,
maybe. Don't know that.
Maybe we don't. We don't. So, I mean, that's the thing. They gave us a lot to chew on already, right?
And she was seeing his ex-girlfriend murderer from season 1.
And you saw like the spelling of the name, like, or something, like, and it kind of almost looked like it was a J. So it could be. What I'm really curious about is like who we're going to see like pop up star-wise, like guest star-wise. Like, I still really hope, like, the one I would love to see is Dick Van Dyke. I would love to see him on there.
I would love to see that, but Dick is 98.
He was just at Disneyland.
Yes,
he's still up
around.
He did the Mary Poppins Returns. He last year did a video with his wife where he was singing and dancing and everything else. Like, he's still up there. He's kicking. I think he'd be cool, even if like they just showed him on like the phone. Like, I think that would
like a Mel Brooks.
A Mel Brooks.
It might almost be too much, but man, I would love to see, like, if I had a dream, cast sheet in front of me, I would be like, if there's any way that you can work Carol Burnett into this,
that would be
please do
really
so,
great.
because
she was great in the final season of Better Call Saul.
She was. She's still. She still is alive and kicking and great. And this is exactly the kind of thing that I could see her nailing if she got a decent enough part, like, like something, not just a cameo, but something like, I mean, I don't know. It would be interesting to see if she's the killer, but it could be fun. It could be a lot of fun to
I
have
don't
her
see
Will
on.
we
her
see
being
Joy
back
come
into
back
the
with
shot.
Scott Bakula?
And Scott go, oh boy, and then
Yeah.
That would be a good one too.
Yes.
Yeah. The two guys heading out. It would be good. I would like to see Charles get something more interesting to do. I mean, last season with him and his sort of stepdaughter, whatever. That was great. Like you guys said, I missed her. Andrea Martin, that storyline was no comparison to what they did with him last. So,
and I love her too. So
yeah, she's all right.
She's wonderful.
Yeah. But she was kind of one note in this.
Yeah.
Like just one note.
The crazy fish lady.
Yeah, exactly.
Mm-hmm.
But she can still bring it. I mean, some of the scenes between them were still really good, especially the breakup scene and everything was really well done. So I don't think they don't have a problem getting talented people to go on the show and do really good work.
I think that it's more of a struggle on who to invite. Like, don't have too many of them.
Yes.
Like, so
absolutely.
I'd love to see Nathan Lane come back.
I was just thinking that.
So, we saw his son, but we didn't get to see him this season. So,
along with Steve Martin, John Hoffman is a co-creator of the show, and he is right there writing. He co-wrote the last episode of this season. He's right there along most of the other people who wrote or directed have been involved since season 1 as well. So the crew is behind the scenes is pretty sharp, and they're I hope that doesn't change as well, because I don't think they're getting stale. I don't think that this is like a show that I mean, heck, if they wanted to go 5 seasons, I wouldn't complain, because I think that they've just done an amazing job, and it doesn't show any signs of wear as far as I'm concerned.
I love this a lot about this season. I thought, and I'm going to just go out and say this, the whole thing when they finally revealed that it was the son who pushed them and everything like that, I thought it was a little anticlimactic. Oh, don't jump, right in the middle of the performance. That was, for me, that was the only weak point of the season and everything. I thought everything else clicked, everything with the mother, everything else with, Paul Rudd's character and the brother, and it was just awesome. It was
the actress playing Donna, I was really impressed with from the start. She had a very strong character.
Very much so, and that's what
the actor who played Cliff, I thought it was interesting. Like, I know him from Smash primarily. And he was in there, but I thought it was an interesting to see him in that context. But I do think that they were trying to give him that particular scene. I think they were trying to give him something more to do, because he's supposed to be the killer, but then again, we hadn't really seen him. He hadn't really played a role. So this was his character in just one scene. So yeah, I think if they would have somehow introduced him more and maybe cut down that I'm gonna jump out of the hole in the roof scene, that would have been better.
Yeah.
But it was funny, the scenes though, with both, Charles and Oliver having to run up the spiral staircase to go.
Yeah, but I'm like,
that would be me. I don't
why are they all going up when he might be coming down? Someone should be down at the bottom to
I was waiting for somebody to pull some kind of prop out that was one of those big firemen things in the cartoons.
You know what they should have done? They should have grabbed one of the baby carriages of the triplets.
Yeah, that would have been awesome. Actually let him fall. I think that would have been really funny.
My favorite part of that whole sequence, though, is when, Charles realizes what's going on up there and he takes off, and then they cut back to the audience, and what's the name? Uma says, like, what's going on? This is a weird play or whatever. And Matthew Broderick says, yeah, but that's exactly how a Scandinavian
Yeah.
Would have run.
policeman
Yeah.
would run.
Mhm.
Like, I was like, man, they're just like nailing it. Like, this is like,
Yeah.
boom, that's the
Yeah,
punch right
exactly.
there.
And that is one thing about Steve Martin's character this year. We got to see him do more of his like physical comedy stuff, which I thought was funny.
My
So,
favorite
That is,
still
that's always great.
my favorite
And,
still in the first season though, when he was poisoned and they had
Ah.
a baby carriage.
So
And,
good.
and then in his mind, he claimed, I was just faking it. That's right. We're on to you. And then they switched to reality. He's like, and it's like, what's he
Yeah.
doing? I don't know.
One last thing, I didn't think we were going to see Detective Donna again, and so when she
No.
burst in,
Yes.
I was so happy, and the fact that she's like a huge musical fan.
Yes.
Like,
Yeah.
and I love that they played back into that. Like, from
Mhm.
it was season 1 or it was season 2 when all of a sudden she broke into a chorus line. I'm like, are they going to play into that? And it played an important role in
Yeah.
this season. Like, so I thought that was fun. I like.
Yeah, it was the first win that the three of them had once they got back together podcasting, because it was a really surprise win too, because it was like, you thought they were just being silly about trying to overhear the interrogations in the room, and then but it was all a plot to try to get a camera in there, and I was like, that's because they knew she was going to have to leave because she really wanted to see him try to do the patter song. I was like, this is that was really well done.
Mm-hmm.
And it's like they did something, they were competent.
Yeah, exactly.
Competent.
Like they did something they meant to do.
Yeah.
Well, and even Mabel's character, like, surprisiprisingly, you did that well.
Yeah.
Exactly. She's like, oh my God.
You guys did great, and it was like and it hurt her to say that to them.
Yeah.
Which was awesome.
Yeah, definitely.
Well, we have no idea when. I mean, we know that the 4th season is on the books, but we have no idea when it might be here. I mean, I think as we're talking, right, the actors are still on strike, so that's not going to be resolved probably. Well, we don't know, but so hopefully we get it, this time next year, maybe. Fingers crossed.
They are writing it. They did say the writers are back at work writing the 4th season. So
right. So with the 3rd season behind us and the series prodding along as it is, are you guys excited for the 4th season? And do you want to see it go even longer?
Yeah, very much so.
Definitely.
Yep. I'm excited. I take it season by season. I figure this is a team that knows when to stop, knows when enough is enough. I don't think that they'll drag it out beyond its natural life, but certainly if they find justification to keep it going a few more seasons, I'll be happy to watch it whenever it comes around.
Mm-hmm.
Definitely. I mean, even just the length of the episodes themselves, having them be a half an hour long rather than the traditional hour, I think shows that they are very hyper aware of, like, we can only do this for so long. So like once it becomes stale, they won't do it anymore. So
yeah. That's a good point. The episodes often end before I'm ready for them to end.
Yes.
So that's good to be. It's good to be in that mode.
Absolutely. And we're going to take that cue, and we're not going to take that. We're going to not have this segment go any longer than it needs to go. So, but we do have you on record that saying that you guys are excited for season 4 and that you'll be back on to join us to talk all about season 4 when it comes on. So
absolutely.
So that being said, we're going to take a quick break. And when we come back, we are going to close out the show.
Okay, YouTube listeners, this is our bonus point, and good question I want to have for you guys. People have been talking, actually, and I've read a couple articles. They're talking about spin-offs of this show. Who would you want to see as a spin-off? Do you want to see the show continue after it ends with Mabel and maybe some of the other characters doing mysteries? Or do you want to see other characters spin off from it into their own series?
I wouldn't want to see Mabel or any of the core 3 on their own. But I would like a Howard show would be fun.
That's what I was just thinking, Howard.
And just call it Howard and be like Seinfeld or something like that.
Howard and what's the cat's name? Servin? I can't remember. I want to see the cat come back.
I hope he keeps up his relationship. We obviously didn't get to see them together a lot because his boyfriend had to take on the lead role.
Oh, but he was way too drugged out for which was interesting. But yeah, Mike, what do you think?
I don't know. I can't. There's nothing that screams, like spin-off for me. Like there's nobody. I mean, I like everybody, okay, but there's nobody that I'm like, man, I wish I could see more of them. And as Felicity said, I don't want to see because obviously Mabel's the one that you would point to because she's the youngest, right? So she would be like, going on her own, doing whatever. Just if she teams up with Tina Fey or whatever, maybe she doesn't, and they continue a rivalry of some kind. But without the other two, I mean, it would be flat. I would not. I'd much rather see the actors do other things than be interested in a spin-off from this series itself.
I think it might be fun to have like short episodes, like maybe not a whole series, but like have one on Howard and have one on Uma, and you could even throw weird characters like Bobo into it, and have them have 10-minute segment shows or things like that. I think that could be a lot of fun.
That's a good idea. Like you got a little bit of their, you got a little bit of Uma on her own, in this season, and it occurs to me that I would have liked to see a spin-off with Jane Lynch's character. Unfortunately, we won't get that. But maybe
we won't get that now.
Maybe next season they'll have flashbacks of what's going on with her, like they did with Paul Rudd this season.
Oh well, yeah, I would imagine so. Yes.
Yeah,
we haven't seen the last of Jane.
And I would like to say more story about the penthouse apartment, and that's the other thing I want to know is who's going to be in the penthouse next year.
It would be interesting and stuff because a friend of mine was like saying, oh, they could do a Brazos series, that would be kind of fun, or like a throwback 70s series or something.
That would be really funny.
And everything, and then have a different actor playing the Steve Martin role. But
I would watch that.
Yeah.
Well, I've gotten. I mean,
a Brazos reboot.
After Kevin and I watched Poker Face, which I will also highly recommend as a murder mystery.
Wonderful.
We went back and started watching Columbo, which I'd never actually seen much of. So
good.
Columbo is really awesome. I used to watch it with my grandma.
Before I go, just one more thing, man. Yeah,
I think the cinematography and the pacing is just so 70s. It's amazing, but I'm really enjoying it, and the performances in it. And Peter Falk is amazing.
I think Rian Johnson is partially or largely responsible for the kick in murder mystery stuff that we've gotten over the last 4 or 5 years since Knives Out was such a hit. That's when Kenneth Branagh started making the Agatha Christie books and movies, and then we've gotten quite a few of them, with Poker Face being one of them on the streaming services now. It seems like every streaming service has some sort of lighthearted murder mystery series or movie or something that they're doing, and I definitely think it's something that will continue. I don't think it's gotten old yet, but I think Rian Johnson's a big reason why we've got Only Murders in the Building, because Steve Martin had this idea for a decade. Like he's had this idea for longer than 10 years, but he wasn't able to sell it until only recently after that became a thing.
Mm-hmm.
All right. Well, thank you, Rian Johnson, then. But I think his work is fantastic. I like Glass Onion, I think, even better than Knives Out in some ways. Awesome. And Natasha, I will watch Natasha Lyonne do absolutely anything.
I would watch her read the phone book. Hello, and especially with the accent, it's awesome.
Definitely.
What's his name? How do you pronounce his name? So I think that would be kind of awesome. But yeah, I definitely think it's a cool thing. And the more we get, I could see the show going 2 more seasons easily. After that, it's interesting when a lot of those type of series, when they get to the 5th or 6th season, then you start getting to the point where it's like, seen that, done that, let's not revisit that again.
And some of the reviews that I was reading, which I always take entertainment critics with a grain of salt, like professional critics, but like we're already seeing some of that in this season. Like there was one on USA Today where they said like Meryl Streep carried the whole season, and I don't think that's
I disagree with that.
Yeah, in
I do
general,
too.
I think they did a really good job.
I mean, the internet is divisive about everything. But yeah, I have seen same thing. I've seen concerns. I saw it in season 2. People were saying, "Oh, this is not nearly as good as season 1," and whatever, yada yada yada. And then it's the same thing with season 3. So I've seen a lot of people not as happy. But I think the numbers were good. I don't, and that's what the studios look at. They and the streaming services look at the numbers. They don't care what people are, if they like it or not. They just want to know if people are watching. And I mean, all 3 of us are sound individuals, and we all seem to enjoy it. So I think that's the minority.
I think we can't count.
2 of the 3,
or maybe one of us didn't like it. just as I don't go looking for spoilers. Yeah. Just as I don't go looking for previews and spoilers, the older I get, the less I care about other people's opinions about things. So I don't go looking for reviews after the fact either.
I agree. I think that's, reviewers I take with a grain of salt no matter what, and
reviewers like us.
Exactly. Well, we're not critics. That's the thing.
We're not critics. Yeah.
We're critical, but we review. So yeah, I know. Oxymoron right there.
Yeah.
And I am the oxymoron, so it's okay.
I'm like, all right.
I think we'll wrap up this segment now before I dig myself even further down.
Exactly.
All right, that's going to wrap up another episode of the Earth Station One podcast. I want to thank everyone for joining us tonight. Felicity, it's awesome to have you back on the show.
Oh, it's always a pleasure, and I missed you at DragonCon, so it's nice to see your face again.
I missed you guys too, and it was funny. I was talking to Kevin, and we were so pathetic. We went up to Asheville for the weekend and everything while you guys were, Dragon Conning it and everything. And what did we do at the house? We watched Dragon Con TV, So, it's good to know that we could stream all the way up in the mountains and everything. So it was worth it.
That is
anything
impressive.
You want to shout out about or such?
No, I've done a little more fill-in work on the Flopcast recently as schedules permit. Sometimes Cornflake isn't able to be on, so I'll be filling in for her whenever I can. But I think that there's some more fun stuff ahead for the Flopcast, and they're going to have our friend Chris Cummins from Sci-Fi Explosion on again soon. We just have loved getting to spend time with him at DragonCon, and he's so funny and just kind of his brain works the same way, even and perhaps even a little bit more bizarre than Kevin's does.
Very much so. I kind of agree with that. But I love what you guys are doing on the Flopcast, and it's always great to escape reality by going back to the worlds of Dynamite magazine and and chickens. It's always a good
chickens. There will always be chickens in the news.
Exactly. And Sarah, you made it through your first episode with us. Congrats.
I did. Yay. Okay.
We're
yeah.
awesome.
And I do want to say you were definitely missed at DragonCon. One of these years, I'll see you in person at DragonCon, hopefully.
Maybe not.
But as far as me, you can find me rambling about theater quite a bit on my DragonCon theater group. I won't go too much about that, but other than that, yeah, no, I enjoy this. I'd love to do more, so definitely.
You have an open door, my friend. You have an open door.
Definitely. Thank you.
No problem. And we'll have a link up to your group up on our show notes also.
Yeah.
Mhm.
Awesome. Yeah. Dragon Con theater and performing arts lovers unofficial. We do online panels and stuff like that. So as I said,
They do some amazing work, folks. They do some great stuff. And if you're a theater lover, obviously, by watching what we watched this year, and they might even
we're getting ready to do one here about horror theater on the 19th. We got a celebration of Wicked's 20th anniversary, and we might be doing one about techs, called Techies Do It in the Dark. Coming up here at the end of November. So yeah, no, we
That's
have some
even better.
some fun stuff planned.
That's awesome. And Mr. Mike, we've made it through another one, my friend.
We did, and as always, it's my pleasure.
Anything you want to shout out about, sir?
I do. About a month ago or so, we were reviewing Strange New Worlds, and I did a shout out because I was awesome. It was a big honor for me to be included in a new book edited by Jim Beard for Becky Books called Galloping Around the Cosmos: Memories of TV's Wagon Train to the Stars from Today's Grown-Up Kids. It's basically a bunch of essays about people, us kids growing up watching the original Star Trek series, whether it's in syndication or when it aired originally, et cetera, or when we discovered it, that kind of thing. The book is out. It is available on Amazon. It is $11 for a hard copy. I think it's cheaper than that if you get the digital copy on Kindle, et cetera. But I am beyond thrilled to have my essay in print alongside. I mean, the names here besides myself are awesome. Keith DiCandido, Nancy Holder, Tom Brevoort, Jim Beard, of course, Alan Porter, Van Allen Plexico, the award-winning Bobby Nash, our good friend there, Andrew Leyland, Paul Kupperberg, a bunch of other people. I mean, it's just amazing to me that I was able to have my piece sit alongside these great talents. So the book is available now. If you like Star Trek, or if you just like reminiscing about the past, please check it out. I'm really happy about it.
It's awesome, sir, and congrats for writing that story. Very impressed.
Thanks.
All right, I'm going to bring the show down a little bit. Sorry to do this, but I would be amiss if I did not bring up what's going on in Israel right now. And, being woken up early, and I do mean early, almost before dawn on Saturday, by people texting me and news stories about the horror that's going on in that country right now. And, I'll be perfectly frank with you guys. I was supposed to, in a week and a half, be going there on a trip. And we were going to be there for 2 weeks on a tour. And we had to cancel it, obviously, because of what's going on there. And it's heartbreaking seeing what's happening. This, killing and slaughtering of people, of children, of women, of civilians on both sides. And I'm not saying just Israeli, I'm also saying Palestinian. It's horrible for everything. And yes, I know people are going to go, well, it's war, Mike. Things like this happen. No, this does not just happen. This was a planned slaughter. And it was ruthlessly done by terrorists who are not, they're cowards. These folks are people who, will have their own people killed to protect themselves. They hide in, populated areas. So when the military comes looking for them, they know there's going to be civilian deaths. And it's horrible. It's horrible. And I feel for it. And, it's just not, it's not cool what's going on over there. And there's people who are joking about it. There's people who are making fun of it. And it's not cool. I've had to already defriend 2 people on Facebook
Oh God,
because of shit
can't
like that.
imagine.
Mm.
And
We're just, yeah,
go
we've
ahead.
had such an atmosphere of, anti-Semitism coming back in a big way in the US already. So this is on top of that, it's just devastating.
It
And I
is.
can't imagine anyone joking about it.
But they are, and it's not cool. This is, as I've seen, this is the most deaths of Jewish people in one day since the Holocaust. And
I heard.
it's, and it's not over. This is just the beginning. And I think it's going to get a lot worse before it gets better. It's not going to disappear in a couple of days. It's not going to be, oh, it's just a flare up. No, this is war, folks. And prayers and hopes, donations to organizations over there, because there's portions and families who will never be back to normal. And, there's people, Americans were killed during this. And it's, there's other nationalities too. It's just not Israelis that are paying the price. And it's horrible. And you know what? This is not a cool thing to happen. And I know we had a great show. It's been very upbeat and everything, but this has been on the back of my mind for many days now. And this is my pulpit to talk about it. And this is, the area and time to be able to, have fun, but also to be able to say, hey, folks, there's people out there not as fortunate as we are here in the United States. And I know we have listeners all over the world. And I know I've seen the numbers. We do have listeners in Israel. We do have listeners in, the Palestinian areas over in the West Bank. We do have listeners in Egypt and Jordan and all the countries in Libya and Lebanon and, all the different countries. And you know what? Our prayers are out for all of them because there's nowhere that's going to be safe right now over there. And, I know, hug your loved ones tonight, folks. You don't even have to be Jewish to feel for this, because these are just people. And that's what's the bad thing about it. And there's children on both sides who are losing their parents, who are losing brothers, sisters. And you know what? Anytime that happens, that sucks. It's hard. It's horrible. It's a travesty. And you know what? Screw it. This is how we're going to end the show tonight. I don't want to go further. I don't think we need to go further. Let's close it with that. I don't think we need to do closing credits or whatever. Thank you guys for being here. Thank you guys for watching. But I just want to end it tonight. Peace. That's what we really need right now. Love you all. Bye.